going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It, your movie podcast for reboots, remakes, sequels, and the great question of why do we keep doing this over and over again? Cash, money, or nostalgia, or real reasons? As always, I'm your host, Blake Schultz, and with me is Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And we are talking about Venom 3, The Last Dance, coming into theaters again this October, where the first Venom premiered, but 2018 now, years ago.
Yes.
To huge applause, and we've just stayed in that October gap the whole time.
They knew their sweet spot.
Yes, this is an interesting movie because it's trying to do a lot and also sort of ignoring a lot. Because the last time we saw Venom in the Venom movie, he ate Carnage the symbiote, and then there was a post-credit scene, and then he warped somewhere, and he licked a television with Spider-Man on it, and then the next time we saw him was in Spider-Man No Way Home, where he was drinking at a bar and got warped back.
Right.
So the movie opens with him being warped back, and once again, a little bit of the symbiote stays in Earth 616, I guess. And then we're done with the MCU crossover.
Won't bring that up again, other than that's it.
Yeah, it in theory is over forever. Is Michael Keaton going to show up? Is Morbius? Is Madam Web? I don't think Sony knows.
The fact that we have actors in this movie that were active pieces of the 616 world, sure, okay, yeah.
And we're so deep into the multiverse stuff now that I really am starting to wonder if we've just changed all of it in a post-Jonathan Majors world, and we're just going to have throwaway jokes of everyone being over it, or if we're actually trying to build to a place where maybe the Sonyverse and Spider-Verse and the MCU are going to converge. Because it just now sort of feels like we're all just kind of being like, we're tired of it, right? We're tired? Great. We're going to go do Doom. He might be from another universe also. We don't know.
We don't know.
But it feels especially lazy in this movie because we sort of warp back and immediately are thrown into this, oh, you're on the run for a murder you didn't commit.
Right.
Go.
Yeah. There's no real pickup from Carnage, which they almost ignore that film outside of the police officer, us having the tidbit of the death, like, hey, he killed someone in a church steeple, go. And then the officer that shows up at the very middle to end of this movie. But outside of Cletus, we don't mention Cletus at all. We don't mention Carnage symbiote at all, which is a baffling thing considering how big that character and that piece is to this world.
And it feels like you would have needed him. It seemed like a great story to be like, well, we got to go get something worse than this.
Yeah.
Because then the movie, for those who don't know and want their full spoilers, we immediately see the symbiote god Knull, a newer character to the Marvel Comics, but still relatively old. And my understanding is we're once again not paying the creator of that, which irritates me. We should be giving him money for using him in the film, because we're using him in the film.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis plays this role smallly. He sends his predator, alien, xenomorph mixed up dogs. That's what they looked like to me. I was like, these are the xenomorph dogs.
Xenomorph dogs. Yeah. I can't express to you, this is why this movie has a problem for me as a whole. I can't express to you how much that character annoyed me. I like the concept of like, hey, we're going to open the movie with the villain, sort of explain the process and just go. The fact that we spend the entire film without really having a true villain to Venom, like there's no real villain, because that villain, Knull, never comes into a point where he actually goes head to head with Venom. So we just have Knull doing stuff as a puppet master on the sideline in what is called The Last Dance. So at least if we're seeing in the previous Avengers movies and we see Thanos off to the side doing his thing, we know that we're going to get a film at some point in time where Thanos was actually going to fight some of these folks. By the surname of this movie, we're never going to come back here again. So if you're putting Knull on the board and we're not using him, why? Like I left here like, what's the point of this?
No, the movie opens more questions than it answers, which for a trilogy cap is weird. which is sort of where I'm going, where I'm like, the movie is trying to do a lot of things to bridge the MCU to the Sony universe, to wrap up the Venom trilogy, set up a new villain, explore Venom's past, make a more meaningful bond between Eddie and Venom. And it ultimately
Yeah,
doesn't do any of it.
no,
We
at all.
we start a road trip on our way to New York because for whatever reason, the plan to hide from the law is to go to one of the most densely populated cities
That
on the
has cameras.
planet.
That has
Ev-
cameras
Can
everywhere.
we talk about these cameras? Every single street camera that Eddie Brock passes does like a zoom enhance and then gives his little like Marvel stat card and then just beams to Area 55, the
Yeah,
underground part of Area 51. Because in the movie, we're decommissioning Area 51
correct.
in 3 days so that we can also follow this family who's going to go prove to his daughter, who openly says she wants the government to take her,
I want
uh,
to be taken. Yeah,
and have these weird moments of like, oh, Eddie, the doorway in your brain needs to be open to other things. And the whole time, Eddie is like, I can prove right now that aliens are real, but I just won't.
but I won't.
I could warn you about all of the imminent danger you're about to go to,
You
but
shouldn't
why
be
do
heading this
that?
way because I'm an alien and stuff's going to get
Yeah.
real fast.
Yeah. And we
But
do
here's some
more.
chocolate. I'll take that from you. Thank you.
And we do more of Eddie as just Eddie because in the movie now, if Eddie and Venom merge, they have a codex because Eddie died once and Venom brought him back. And now when they bond,
Yeah,
that's the key that can open up Knull, which opens other questions of like, well, could I literally like all of these hosts that these dogs kill later in the movie and then eat the symbiotes? Why not just kill the host, throw the symbiote onto him, have them be revived, and then you'll have other codexes, right? It's
yeah.
not like Venom's codex. It's this. Any symbiote can make a codex, which
Yeah.
is a preposterous way to create a key. It's, oh, everyone has my password. You simply need to
And
look at our notepad.
yeah, for an hour and 40 movie, hour 40 plus movie, we probably get Venom on screen, maybe a full-fledged Venom on screen, 25, maybe 30 minutes movie, for the last dance, which is odd. And it's because of the way they do the story. So it's a lot of just watching Eddie Brock mope around and just do random stuff and find himself out. And I feel like this movie was trying to layer in a more serious, what do I do if my friend leaves me? Like I become bonded to this person. What do I do if this person leaves me? And I am in a better handed trilogy, the sort of Maroon 5 Adam Levine piece that we get at the very end would work if it had done sort of the seeds to sort of posit this earlier. But we don't get into that really into this film. And because they mentioned something, it's a throwaway line, but it happens. It makes me like, well, then this is dumb. These three films happen in 1 year's time span, which I'm like, well, then you guys aren't that damn close. Like, I don't care what you tell
Well,
me. You're not that close.
yeah, in a movie that's supposed to be like, look how close we are and all we've been through, he still bitches about Venom the whole
Right.
time.
Yeah.
He complains, he yells at him, you never gave me a choice. Oh, we can't merge to dance with Miss
Miss
Chen.
Chin.
We can't,
Yeah.
yeah. So every part of this, it almost, I don't even know how this movie feels because it feels like they're trying really hard to be like, give them what they want.
Hmm.
Do the Venom horse, do the Venom frog, do the Venom fish. And I go, cool, fun. Those are images I remember from comic
Yeah.
books. Cool. And then we're done. They have this fun, interesting way of exploring the character in a way we haven't done yet, where you could have just been like, we're going to keep throwing Venom onto other shit because together they're seen,
We can be
but
seen.
separate, we're not. So why not? We
Just keep
always see him go to other people. He's
just get
gone
a
to,
puppy and just keep the puppy with the Venom suit and just
yeah,
keep you guys are together. In case some stuff
go
really goes down, then you
go
can
call the
start that.
ex-girlfriend who he's
Right.
bonded with before and just do that.
Yeah.
So many solutions to
Yeah.
this problem. And then to just sort of be like, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
He's going to do the sacrifice play. We're
And
going to
that
follow, like,
and watching that sacrifice play, I'm sitting here like there are so many other ways to get out of this and what's happening right now. And outside of the story that you're trying to tell me right now, this doesn't work. Like this feels cheap, and you're kind of like, well, we got to end this. This says the last end, so we can't put these guys back together again. We're done here.
yeah. And
That's what that felt like.
so many interesting pieces of like, okay, so the government's after them, Knull is after them, everyone's after them. And then they're just sort of like, no, 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 this Area 55 is wrong, and the symbiotes are good. And we have all of these symbiotes that are going to attach to random scientists, and there's a strong one, and there's one that has two heads, and then there's another one, and then there's Christmas, and she's the coolest one.
Christmas
And
is
then
pretty cool.
also the speedster one that we just don't use until the
Yeah,
very end.
yeah. I think too, the about face that the general does, Rex, he goes from being, I murder them all, shoot them in the face, kill them both. It's all of a sudden he's like, what's your plan? Tell me your plan, Venom. I'm gonna follow you, whatever you guys say to do. What?
Yeah, very strange. And then yeah, we just sort of like we keep trying to force ourselves in a corner of like, okay, well, this one's summoning ET's phoned home, and the other xenomorph dogs are going to come in here, and they're all going to show up, and now Venom has to absorb all of them and go into the bowls of acid that for some reason Area 55 just has lying
So,
around.
when
When we
Knull,
decommission Area 51, we just boil it all with acid, apparently.
I sat there and I was like, when Knull summoned and sent more dogs to the location, I'm like, well, why didn't we do this a long time ago? Like, why did you just send one before it? That seemed like a terrible idea. You should have sent like 10 down there. If this is so easy to do, you
Yeah,
should
it
have
seems like for a prison, you have an army at your disposal.
done.
So I don't know why we're not doing that.
Yeah,
I don't know why we're not doing all of the interesting things that Knull does in his comic story, which is then where we get into the adaptation and the why of all of it. And I'm like, okay, this is sort of the why is to end a trilogy. That's
correct.
why we're
Yeah,
here. And we're going to take a newer Venom villain who is awesome and
mhm,
explains where the symbiote comes from and what he's doing. And if I remember right, he's got Gore, the God Butcher's sword with him.
correct.
And he does all these insane, incredible things to bring about the symbiotes. And in this, we just water him down to like, I don't even, not even like a Palpatine, because there's not really a Vader for
No, because
him.
right, he's not even sending a talking puppet to represent him. It's just like, what if that Ultron spent the entire movie on a chair and he just sent all
Yeah.
the bots to go do everything?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very like, well, what if he just didn't make it out?
Right.
And to tease that kind of a villain in your final chapter is weird.
It's very odd.
And
It's an
and
odd choice.
and to then add these other symbiotes that in theory Venom knows, but instead they're just like the black one has the
Yeah.
codex right now. And you're like, oh, so they don't even have
Code names for each other. It's
alien
like, yeah, they're
names.
like purple one, green one.
We're gonna Power Rangers this. Sure.
Okay.
I will say I did like some of the action in the third act.
The
I
third
did start
act
to be
was
like,
the best part of the movie.
we're doing some cool stuff with the
It,
symbiotes. This
correct.
one who's doing the carnage stuff, but it really just kept making me be like, why did we kill Cletus?
Yeah.
Because I want someone to be like, we need him.
Yeah.
I
It
want
was
the like, we need him moment.
I
Like,
do think they've learned from the original Venom was one of my biggest problems with that final fight scene where it was a black Venom suit and a brown Venom suit fighting each other where the color palette didn't it looked insane. This one at least I could clearly see the difference between the green one and the dogs and I was like, oh, I can actually make all of this out. Whoever is directing this has made a better choice of doing this now. It just came within 20 minutes left in the film and I was like, I no longer care. Like this is
yeah,
fun. And this is why I know some people don't, but this is why I like Carnage movie more because it's 88 minutes. It gets in and gets out, and we get to what I'm here for quickly. Because none of these movies have a good story. So that movie at least was like, let's just get to the action pieces. This movie, not so much.
yeah, I feel like I rushed through the story, but there isn't really one.
No,
Venom wakes up back in his world. The government's after him, and then he
off to the
fights an
races.
alien in Vegas
Yeah,
on his way to New York,
yeah,
and then
and
dies
then
to
dies.
save Eddie,
Yeah,
who then just goes to New York and is like,
and then
I'll
puts the
never
Statue of
forget
Liberty.
you. In what world would you have been able to forget about Venom?
Not possible.
And it's just also weird because then we do two post-credit scenes, one of sort of Knull's like, hey, I'm still around, and another
Yeah.
that's like, also symbiotes are just still
Still
around.
around. So, like, are we doing a Venom without Hardy? Are we saying Knowles on the board for a Sony, whatever they're doing with their Marvel universe?
Or should I be expecting Tom Holland to get the symbiote and
Right.
that to be this Venom. And if we do a multiverse, Eddie be like, "You have my Venom," and him be like, "Great," and
Yeah.
then they can go fight Knull. Like, what are we?
Yeah. Like I don't.
It's weird. It's just so
The
weird.
end game or whatever they're trying to build for is not clear, and thus makes this even muddier because this isn't a good film. Because it's not a good film, we start pulling it like, what does this mean? What does this here? And then when you do that, you're like, well, none of this seems to be leading anywhere, and I don't care.
Yeah, and then they do the trick of music where they play Maroon 5 at the end. And for a minute, you're like, maybe this
I know I
works.
was like, oh, I'm getting touchy, and then they're showing scenes from the movie, and then in my brain, when that's happening, I'm like, this was at the beginning of the year for them. Like for them, this was all within the same year. So
Which
this isn't.
is,
You can't get that emotional about this, guys.
it's wild when you're like, oh, it was in 2018. So in theory,
Yeah, for us,
because
yes.
also the
Because
Marvel universe jumped 5 years. So then,
it's playing that weird cheat code with the audience. Yeah, we've spent time. We've been here for 5, 6 years. Like, oh, remember the good times? But for that character, it's been a year worth of time. This is what are we doing?
and just still so weird to be in this, like, it feels so 90s to just be like, oh, Venom, by the way, the world still doesn't know about any of this,
Yeah,
so you can't talk about it or we'll throw you in a hole. And it's like,
very. That's what
uh
this franchise as a whole has always felt like to me. It's those mid to late '90s comic book movies, not Blade notwithstanding, but like the Steels or the Van Helsings, where you're like, this is a terrible movie. But outside of the fact that it has a character that I can sort of recognize from comics, you might parse and peel some of the things that work and are actually a part of that, and you're going to do your own thing. I'm happy to see it on screen, so yay.
yeah,
And that's
it's,
how this franchise I still made as much money. I feel like a lot of people were just like, cool, I don't have a chance to see Venom, so I'm gonna take it.
I mean, I think some of the goofiness works for people, and some
Mhm.
of the, like, oh, it's almost like a romantic comedy with Venom and Eddie, and that doesn't even bother me. But in this movie, it starts to just, it doesn't feel that way to me anymore. It now
I
just
think
kind of
it's
feels like everything's going, it just felt loud.
I think it's worn out its welcome. Like I think in that first one it was accepted because like, oh, this is new, I haven't seen this. And then Carnage didn't really have too much of it because it was so fast. And we get back there, it's like, I think I'm done with this. Either give me something new about their relationship or to the point of this movie, it has run its course and we can be done with this.
Because, yeah, they don't feel grown up at
No.
all. Venom's still just hitting the slots and going
Which
nuts. Like,
considering how much time they're saying elapsed between these three films, I can understand why they haven't grown up, but that's a weird choice to make. If you're saying this is the final run, they should have spread this out so that they
yeah,
could have some growth together.
no, it really just kind of makes you realize, like we said last year with the Joker, at a certain point with the villain movies, you need the hero in it,
You do,
or you
yeah,
need a worse
because you
person.
keep trying to one
And
up. Yeah, exactly.
that's why Carnage worked and Knull should have worked, but Knull's
It
not the villain.
right.
The villain is really, like, one of the scientists, I guess, but
I
not
guess the military
really.
guy is sort of the
Yeah.
villain. Rex is pretty
You
much
Right. You're like, well, I guess it's like her because she does her, like, science is sacrifice. Who cares that your men are dead? And that sucks.
yeah,
But then he's like, let's just kill everyone. Something worse is coming. And then you have this, like, rip off Independence Day scene with the symbiote in the cage. And you're like, well, I guess Knull's the villain. But really, it's this xenomorph dog.
yeah.
And that
Which is hard to have a
sucks.
villain that
Like,
doesn't talk or say anything. Like I get no emotion behind that villain. It's just now that's a CGI character fighting another CGI character.
and we just sort of take everyone at their word that Knull's plan is to destroy everything.
Yeah,
Like, because he
we
never
don't
says it.
see. Yeah, yeah. We don't even
Um,
see his face to the last 5 seconds of the movie.
yeah, it doesn't work.
No, no. And it's also clear that the audience doesn't work. Like this is the lowest cinema score it's had. It's working internationally. It's making money over there, but here it's only made like and they made like 50, 51 million, which is the lowest any of these have made. So yeah, I think people are sort of like, let's either give this to Spider-Man or do something new with this.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the Sony stuff is, and I think that's our show. So follow us on Twitter and everywhere else at Hollywood ADI. I'm at always as always Blake. Terrence is at Terrence Tatum, and the Hollywood channel's Hollywood Already Did It, where Terrence does our YouTube channel reactions and trailer reactions and TV show reviews. And we will see everybody next time.
Later.